Okay, I have 6 o'clock, so I'll call our regular city council meeting to order. It's Monday, April 12th, 2021, to 465 South Main Street here in Jasper. I want to welcome everyone to the meeting, and at this time we'll have our opening prayer. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity together. We thank you for the beautiful day that we've had and the rain that we'll always can use. We ask that you look and guide us in our meeting tonight, that the action that we take will be in the best interest of the citizens of Jasper. These things we ask in Jesus' name. Amen. The first item I have on the agenda, we have on the agenda, is a proclamation regarding Child Abuse Awareness and Prevention Month. I understand we have a representative here. Okay. It's fairly long. You may come up here or you may remain seated. I will read the entire proclamation. This is a proclamation for Child Abuse Awareness and Prevention Month, April 2021. Whereas in federal fiscal year 2020, the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services confirmed 68,461 victims of child abuse or neglect, including 280 in Jasper County. And whereas our children are our most valuable resources and shape our future, and child abuse and neglect are serious problems affecting every segment of our community and has long-term psychological, emotional, and physical effects that can have lifelong consequences for victims. Additionally, the impact of abuse and neglect has long-term personal, economic, and social cost, therefore hurting the future of our community. And whereas prevention remains the best defense for our children and families, and whereas finding solutions requires input and action from everyone in our community. And we acknowledge that we must work together as a community to increase awareness about child abuse and contribute to promote the social and emotional well-being of children and families in a safe, stable, nurturing environment. Whereas effective child abuse prevention activities succeed because of the meaningful connections and partnerships created between child welfare, education, health, community, and faith-based organizations, businesses, and law enforcement agencies, and volunteers. Communities must make every effort to encourage volunteerism and promote programs and activities that benefit children and their families. Whereas court-appointed special advocates, CASA volunteers, are assigned by the court to speak up for a child's best interest and help ensure a child's voice is heard. Every child in foster care deserves a CASA volunteer, but roughly less than half the children in care do not have a CASA volunteer. And whereas CASA of the Sabine-Neches region, Child Protective Services, Child Advocacy Centers, foster parents, teachers, and others work to ensure that children in our community have a safe, happy future. Now, therefore, I, Gary Gatlin, do hereby proclaim April 2021 as Child Abuse Awareness and Prevention Month in the city of Jasper, Texas, and urge all citizens to recognize this month by dedicating ourselves to the task of improving the quality of life for all children and families. Come forward now. I want to commend to the council members the departmental reports that are contained in your folder. the staff meeting notes and the SRMPA report. At this time, we will open our segment of the meeting for public comments. I want to make sure that everyone understands that comments, be they hip hip hooray for us, or come on, is that the best you can do? We are not allowed to respond. My response will be thank you very much, regardless of the nature of the comment. Also, that the comments and segments are limited to 3 minutes. I'm not one to interrupt, but because there may be several speaking, we will adhere to the 3-minute rule. Karen, is this the only one who signed up for public comments?
Yes.
Ms. Angela Lee. Ms. Lee,
Yes, sir.
you may, wherever you feel most comfortable.
I'm not fine with public speaking either. Where do you feel comfortable? I don't know how this works. First
Not
time
that
here.
We have a podium over here. It's to Mr. Holmes and Mr. Lamb's back, but wherever you feel most comfortable.
Okay. Well, I could go way over 3 minutes, but let me try to get through this real quick. And maybe you might allow since I'm the only one.
No, we will adhere to the 3-minute
Okay.
rule.
So my issue with this, I know that the public has been speaking a lot about this $29 million excess amount refunded back to the city. I had issues with the city this year regarding billing. I had caught on a few billing, I had a couple properties in my name. The billing of one was water, sewage, garbage, and utilities. On the other was was just utilities. The one with just utilities had been getting charged with a sewer also. The bill had just been paid through the drive-through, no questions, no looking at it, no opening. The final bill, when they had moved for a final bill, the deposit was not applied to the final billing, it was applied, I don't like to focus anymore, transferred to an existing property. So in turn, they gave me a final bill of $266, and when I called and addressed it, because the final bill came to my property, I opened it and I seen a sewer charge. And I was like, well, this doesn't make sense, I don't pay sewer, the owner does. So I spoke to the city, they weren't really willing to look into it, not from the way I felt. I had to go, it was 2 or 3 conversations, and then I got to Mary with the city, and she said, well, that's how we do it here. And I said, well, how do you do a final bill without applying the deposit to the final bill? You can't just transfer it to another property and hold it because you're gaining interest on it. It doesn't work that way. And she said, well, I don't, and then she got back and she goes, well, I'm not sure how the, she worded this, work order got done this way. And then I asked her about the sewer. So in turn, for the five previous months, there had been a sewer charge attached to this billing that should have never been attached to that billing. So they got paid. I don't understand with accounts payable and receivable, how it was not caught by the city, how it was caught by a citizen. When I addressed it to my precinct, Mr. Schofield, he said that they were known to have glitches in the system. They didn't have money for an updated system. I feel that there's money for updated systems somewhere with 29 million that came back. That should not glitch. An account is an account number, a name is a name. And also inspections. I work for a finance company. I see a lot of people's bills, different things like that. I was shocked when I seen one bill on a certain address. I have to kind of cover myself. We're a small town, and it's not covering yourself. It's I don't want to read anything wrong just by stepping up and saying something. I had a customer that had an extremely high light bill, and I was like, "There's no way. There's no way. How is it not red flag the billing department that something is wrong at that property?" And I'm not talking about $600, $700, $800. We're in the thousands on a mobile home, or rental mobile home on top of that. Who is to protect the citizens as far as if landlords are not doing what they need to be doing, if these properties are not up to city or state code, who here in our city is protecting the citizens here? Inspectors can go out, you can charge a fee, it should not be, as long as the utilities are not disconnected, that it's not gonna get red flagged over a 6-month period for inspection before they turn it back on. Something needs to trigger to protect these properties. The owners are the citizens. And if the utilities are high, it could be something in the electrical that either an owner or a tenant, not a tenant, the owner of the property needs to address, needs to fix for state code. All properties must be state code.
Thank you.
And that's as of now all.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, we'll go to action. Item 1, consider the 2 sets of minutes from the regular call city council meeting March 8, 2021, and the special call city council meeting on March 25th.
Make the motion to approve March the 8th.
Second.
Have a motion and second for the approval of the March 8th meeting. Are there any questions? Not all in favor signify by the usual sign of voting. Motion carries. And that was just as to the March 8th meeting.
Yes.
All right. To the special call city council meeting for March 25th.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the approval of the minutes from the special call meeting on March 25th. Are there any questions? Not all in favor signify by the usual sign of voting. Motion carries. Number 2. Consider items from council members Anderson Land and DeMarcus Holmes billing the citizens of Jasper the residential electric utility rate at cost, parentheses, at the rate that the city is charged, close parentheses, for the next 6 months to provide some relief from the coronavirus pandemic and the previous winter storm we just experienced in southeast Texas, using the funds from the SRMPA Cambridge project to offset the difference in the rate normally billed. Can I actually read that, Mr. Land?
Correct.
Mr. Holmes?
Correct. Mayor, I had asked, city manager, city finance director, Denise Kelly, to, put some numbers together for me. And what she did was, she gave me the, fuel costs, our rates that she had given us for residential rates. Maybe she can explain it a little bit better than I can. And, with the numbers that she came up with were estimated numbers. And, with the, power cost from SRMPA, which, well, I guess we were paying, what, 9 cents? Is it, Denise?
Almost 10 cents, 0.99.
And the, residential rate that we're paying is 12
Correct.
cents. And the, estimated, power cost for the month of February, which she gave me, would, be a estimated revenue loss for 6 months. She based this off the month of February. And she said the estimated revenue loss for, residential service for 6 months would be, $699,644.64.
And that's just an estimate.
Right.
I'm using 1 month's cost and that 1 month's, rate
Right.
for residential only.
Ms. Kelly, what was the, comparison, can you give us a comparison between, the electrical charge in the month of February this year versus, say, during the summer? How did they compare?
Well, we actually used more power during August of 2020 than we did during our winter storm. In August, we used 9.6 million kilowatt hours, and in February, we only used 8.7 million kilowatt hours.
Mr. Land, I read the motion. Is that your motion?
Yes, it is.
Is there a second?
I see.
Are there any other questions? If not, then all in favor signify by the usual sign of voting. Any opposed? 2 to 3, motion fails. Number 3, consider, tabled items regarding the police department. This also was placed on the agenda by Mr. Land and Mr. Holmes. This is not a time to hear this, Mr. Land. I have spoken with representatives of the police department on 2 separate occasions. Told them that they would like to have a workshop to present this, but the time for this to be considered is at time of the budget.
Right, and I thought that was understood when we had our last meeting, but I spoke with Karen, and she said that, since they tabled it, it's been put back on.
All right, go to number 4, consider approval of the first quarter City of Jasper investment report.
Mayor, city council member, this is the same report that y'all get. We usually just put it up there with your information packet. But, the auditors just thought it would be a good idea that we just make a motion so that it would be on record that it was seen by council and approved.
So it's what we've had on previous,
Nothing has changed, it's just an agenda item now for approval.
at the request of the auditor.
It's the same amount?
Well, no, the amounts change every quarter because of the interest, but the basic principal amount, yes, sir, is the same.
I'll make a motion to accept that as written.
I'll second the motion.
Have a motion and a second for the approval of the first quarter of City of Jasper investment report. Any questions? All in favor signify by the usual sign of voting. Motion carries, it's unanimous. Number 5, consider the tabled items from City Public Works Director Greg Kelly. City to consider funding the infrastructure for the fire training field and utilizing city crews for the installs. Greg?
Mayor, council, this is something we've been working on for a while. In the past 6 months, we've had to work on it quite heavily. As y'all can see, some of the agencies that's all involved in this, some of the fire department in here. We always hear stuff around town, what can we do for our kids that's in school, leaving here, how to keep some of these kids here, how to get them the education that they need here, they can go out and get a job right out of high school. We don't have this in this PowerPoint here in a minute. And this is something that, this fire field is something, the first step, we want to eventually get it turned in where there's also some shooting range and the police cadet type, academy out there along with the lineman school and some other stuff. And this is, the ESD's involved in it. With the city doing the infrastructure, the ESD's gonna be doing the training, fire department training field. I'm gonna turn it over now, if y'all don't mind, to James Gunner, he's with the Bistro Fire Department, the ESD. And we're gonna do this little PowerPoint, give y'all the information y'all need on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Councilman. Do I have more than 3 minutes, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, that only applies to the public comment.
Just want to make sure, because I can't even say hello in 3 minutes.
I understand.
And hello, because I hadn't seen you in a long time.
There's been a lot.
This project to create a fire training facility in and around the Jasper area started back in 2003. Back then, I was the fire chief in Jasper, Greg was the assistant chief. We wrote a strategic plan. That strategic plan included a training facility incorporated into it. There was a cooperative agreement in principle back in 2003 between the City of Jasper and Jasper ISD, Jasper ESD number 4. At the time, the City Council designated an 18-acre tract of land east of town, adjacent to the prison property on the west side of the prison property. Both the ESD and City of Jasper earmarked funds for it at that time. Unfortunately, the project never proceeded back in 2003. The area outlined in yellow is a rough approximation of the boundaries of the 18-acre tract of land. As you can see, it's directly adjacent to Glen Ray Goodman Prison. This is a report from a consultant that we hired in 2005 to talk about what things the City of Jasper could do to improve its ISO PPC rating. In a nutshell, PPC stands for Public Protection Classification. It's a rating of 1 to 10, 1 being the best, 10 being the worst. Basically, it's just a grading schedule created by the Insurance Services Office, which is what ISO stands for. and it defines a community's ability to provide fire protection or to protect itself against fire. This consultant report indicates the available points that could be achieved from the building of a fire training facility. Very long story short, it's a 1 to 100 grading system broken down into 10-point increments. So for every 10 points you achieve in progress, it's 1 point lower in your PPC rating. This consultant's report indicates about 6 available points. Overall, there's about 9 available points, almost 1 classification, if you will, on the PPC scoring system. This gets a little complicated, so please just ask any questions along the way. So for those of you that don't know what an ESD is, Emergency Services District, all of Jasper County is covered by ESDs. They're political subdivisions of the state of Texas. They're governed by 5 commissioners, 2 of which are here tonight, Sam Jobe and Chris Lanier. I don't think I'm missing anyone else. They are appointed every 2 years by the Commissioners Court. There's 6 VFDs that operate within the boundaries of ESD 4. The 3 remaining members, Ed O'Brien, Calvin Cooper, and Jim McCauley. That's a map showing the boundaries of the ESD, basically the northern half of Jasper County, if you will, minus the city of Jasper, and minus Rockland over on 69. In 2019, ESD 4 wanted to pursue a sales and use tax within its boundaries. To do that, we decided we should write a strategic plan to define what that money would be spent on should the people choose to pass that sales and use tax. 4 primary areas of focus: ISO PPC related projects, recruitment and retention, which we'll get into here shortly, an emergency medical responder program to assist the privatized EMS services that currently provide that service in our area, and communications. Some of you may know the Sheriff's Office is the 911 PSAP for the county. They've just built a new communications center over at the Sheriff's Office, independent of the Sheriff's Office itself. So we identified that as a project to help them with whatever projects they might need, assuming the sales and use tax passed, which it did in November of last year in the general election. So what is a training facility versus a fire training field? Both terms have kind of been in play here. The training facility would be the entire 18-acre tract. Only about 5 acres roughly we would need for a fire training field, which would be the projects focused entirely on firefighting. The remaining 13 acres are available to law enforcement, the police department, gun range. We've been in talks with Lamar Institute of Technology. There's some things they may want to do up here in the future. As far as driving course, police academy perhaps, public works, some training courses on the public works side, confined space, high angle trench rescue, heavy equipment operator. I think, Greg, y'all have to send those people somewhere else now to be trained. There's room out there for that. And in our discussions with Lamar Institute of Technology, the electrical lineman program, there's a electrical lineman facility in Silsbee, I believe is where it is. And there would probably be room out there for that. So overall, it would be a training facility that would be all encompassing with only about 5 acres dedicated to a fire training field. The benefits: central location, obviously, the ability to accommodate all the fire departments in the northern end of the county. As I mentioned earlier, a maximum ISO PPC credit of 9 total points, which is almost 1 complete classification. As an example, Rayburn Country is currently a 6 when they were last evaluated. Had we had the training field at that time, they would have scored enough points to have dropped 1 classification to a 5. Jasper's a 5 right now. Where's Jimmy at? Hasn't changed, has it, Jimmy? Okay. Jasper's a 5 now, just to answer your question, if that was one of your questions. The ability to host regional schools. Back when Greg and I were in the fire department at Jasper, we hosted a regional school annually. Had about 500 people come to that thing. Obviously, there's an economic impact when we talk about fishing tournaments around here. We're all seeking those fishing tournaments because we want those people in the hotels and the restaurants. We pursue those for that reason, but this has the ability to do the same thing, same numbers for that matter. And it would become a training grounds for a high school-based fire academy, which is one of the recruitment and retention projects that we find in our strategic plan. We have to have a fire training field to have a high school fire academy. I'm gonna get into that here shortly. What's required at a fire training field: training tower, it's equivalent to 2 or more stories in height, classroom for instruction, the areas that you need for principal applications, including live fire training, both interior and exterior, area that's suitable for demonstrating driving performance, and of course, a bumper apparatus and a ladder truck apparatus, which Jasper has. These are just two examples of what a building would look like out at the fire training facility. This building would be all encompassing, be able to complete all the disciplines required by the state of Texas. Here's another example of what one would look like. My fingers too quick. So what are the costs to do this? The infrastructure development, Greg can elaborate on this, but road, water, sewer, and electrical, Greg's estimating at about $500,000. JEDCO, we've had extensive conversations with. Eddie's here tonight, Paul's here tonight. Chris is also on the JEDCO board. They're willing to contribute in the most effective way possible. We've talked about perhaps they could build a building out there for storage and restrooms and showers. Jasper County ESD, Sam Jobe is the president. They have committed to the initial expense of about $300,000 for one of those buildings that I just previously showed you, that they would be willing to buy and fund. The future projects over the next couple of years would probably come up closer to $500,000 in total of funding from the ESD. And the training providers and the accreditation that's necessary for both the training at the field and the high school fire academy are provided by Lamar, the Deep East Texas College and Career Academy, and of course Jasper ISD. We anticipate recurring costs somewhere in the neighborhood of $10,000 to $15,000 per year. This is just simple upkeep, electricity, water, sewer, so forth. Greg has, I don't know if you've talked to him yet or not, but Greg has proposed that the Goodman unit would perhaps be able to handle the mowing and the landscape maintenance. We're proposing that the recurring costs be split half and half between the city and the ESD. I'm assuming that if we move forward and this happens with these regional classes that we're talking about being able to hold, I think there's a very real possibility this recurring costs could be covered by rent of the field easily. And then of course, with all the 6 different entities that are involved, we would probably need to execute MOUs or interlocal agreements between the entities, just to define who's responsible for what. And of course, the property would remain, would continue to belong to the city of Jasper. So what is the High School Fire Academy? What's the purpose of it? So many of you may not know, but approximately 75% of the firefighters in America are volunteer. There's a shortage of both volunteer and paid firefighters. I'm going to give you an example of a paid story. Beaumont has 10 openings right now. Beaumont Fire Department has 10 openings. That's a job that starts out at $59,000 a year. They gave the test and they passed 6 people for 10 openings. After 1 year, that job pays $69,000 a year. They have 6 people for 10 openings. There's a huge shortage. Volunteer-wise, Jasper's capped at 40 members. I don't recall Jasper having 40 members in at least 20 years. So there's a shortage, a well-defined shortage. There's a shortage of EMTs and paramedics. EMT class is incorporated into the high school fire academy. As an example, Gary Midkiff with Acadian EMS. The Southeast Texas region of Acadian at any given point in time is 5 to 10 EMTs shy and 5 to 10 paramedics shy, and that's on every shift. They cannot hire people fast enough. These are defined as high demand jobs by the Texas Workforce Commission. Eddie and Paul, I think there's some money available, grant monies as a result of that. School districts throughout Texas to combat this are implementing these high school fire academies, quite a few of them. There's nothing in our area, but you get close to Houston or Austin or Dallas, they're there. One of the best ones in the state of Texas that we've contacted and kind of modeling our program after is Kilgore, Texas. Believe it or not, a town not a whole lot bigger than Jasper. But they've probably got what I have found to be the absolute finest high school fire academy anywhere in the country, not just Texas. They're running it in 10 different school districts today. They're adding 8 more in the fall of this year. The emergency medical technician certification programs have already been implemented at DECA. Is that right? I believe that's correct. So as a standalone program, the EMT part's already been implemented. And obviously it's got to be accredited by an institution of higher education. The High School Fire Academy is a 2-year program, junior, senior year. It's a dual credit course. If they successfully complete this, it gives them 18 hours 18 dual credit hours, so 18 college hours in essence. Administered through the Deep East Texas College and Career Academy, which is 6 school districts: Jasper, Kirbyville, Burtonville, Newton, Spurger, and Woodville. I think I got them all right. And upon completion, they're eligible to take the state test both for firefighter and EMT, and they become immediately employable upon graduation with successful completion of this program. At 18 years old, high school graduates successfully complete this program. Those Acadian EMT jobs start out close to $40,000 a year, and like I told you about Beaumont, there's 14 people that work in Beaumont that live in the greater Jasper area right now. There's about 50 in Jasper County. That's a commutable job. You work 8 days a month. It pays $59,000 to start with. These are great jobs. Obviously, there's a cost at DEDCA, just like there are with all dual credit classes. If the student that enrolls in these classes chooses to do an internship in a local volunteer fire department, the Texas Forest Service will fund up to almost $2,000 of those expenses, which will practically pay for that 2-year education. The beautiful part about this is those kids that graduate the high school fire academy and go on to either be a paid firefighter or a volunteer firefighter. There's a state law that grants them tuition exemption at any one of the 25 universities in Texas that go along with this program, any one of the 45 community colleges. That tuition exemption applies to a fire science degree program, which has been defined by the Texas Commission on Fire Protection as a course of study related to fire service, emergency medicine, emergency management, or homeland security. The universities that participate, I said 25, is actually 24. Lamar is the closest one. So if you are a high school student, you enroll in this program, you complete this program, you go on to be a paid firefighter or a volunteer firefighter. You can enroll in any one of the 24 Texas universities that participate, or any one of the 45 community colleges that participate. You get anywhere from an associate's degree to a bachelor's degree to a master's degree in public education, tuition free. That's a big deal. I think this partnership and this project offers probably the most diverse opportunity to the kids at both Jasper ISD but also DEDCA, and it provides a pathway to immediate employment along with a pathway to a future higher education that's tuition free. By simply taking this during the last 2 years of high school, completing the course, and either volunteering to be a firefighter or getting hired as a paid firefighter. This program knows no sex, no race, and no religion. It is the absolute, in my opinion, most diverse opportunity to be presented to this school district in a very long time. However, to get to that point, we have to have a fire training facility to do that. We've talked about the partnership. You saw the opening slide that showed the 6 different partners that was involved in this. The ESD's committed. Sam?
Committed.
JADCO's committed. David? We would love to get the city's commitment. The city dedicated this land back in 2003. This was a project that fell by the wayside. Maybe it's good that it did, because now it seems like it's coming back stronger than ever. This tuition-free college was not available in 2003, but it is today. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Questions, comments?
You said it's gonna be about 500,000 to the city?
That's the water, the sewer, the electrical, and the street. Because the street's not gonna be built, it's gonna be just a clean type road, but we have to build it to strengthen the whole fire truck.
Well, you say about 500,
That was on the high
vague.
end. It was 492 is my estimate.
So you have an estimate?
Yes, sir. And y'all have it, y'all have it, y'all book.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I remember whenever this started, I was actually on council back then. We earmarked $500,000 for it. So it sounded like it's pretty similar in price to what we were talking about back then. I hate that it didn't work out back then, but I look forward to working on it now. I know the expense for water, sewer, and electric, not something we can probably take care of or look at right now. It's something we do in the budget workshop. But I'll tender a motion to approve this project.
I got a question. Who made property?
Hold on, just a second. Have a motion, see if there's a second.
I'll second the motion.
Go ahead.
I just wanna know who profit from this.
I'm sorry?
Who profits from it? Where the money go that you're gonna receive from? Who get the money?
Well, the city, I would assume, would be the manager of the money.
And go back to the maintenance of the field.
You talking about the profitability from these schools that are conducted? Yes, sir, we come back to the city.
And that goes back into the,
Go back to general fund, sure.
Well, and two, it depends on what other agreements were, if it would go back into, if the city was in partnership with another entity as far as maintenance, it would go back in the pool to
so it'll
cover
be distributed,
expenses.
to cover the expenses of the school.
Of the school, and, you know, you don't have, you don't have.
Facility.
The water usage, electrical usage, it covers that kind of stuff.
So it would basically take care of itself.
That's what we're looking at, trying to get it done.
It would probably take a couple of years to become self-sustaining, but at that point.
So until then,
I estimate 10 or 15,000 a year to make that.
a year.
Yes, sir.
It was 3 years we estimated for it to be underneath it back when,
I think so, yeah.
so we're still
Probably still in that same
24
area.
months, 36 months.
I think so.
I hadn't looked at it in a while, thank you.
So where do we get this $500,000 from that you're estimating that the city will take?
That's up to the council, where they wanna take it from.
It sounds like a good idea, but I'm just trying to get understanding.
Any other questions? All right, we have a motion and a second for the funding the infrastructure, the fire training field and utility utilizing city crews for the installs. All in favor signify by the usual sign of voting. Motion, any opposed? 4-1, motion carries.
Mayor, I mean, I guess before we finish this out though, we do need to decide about the funding on it, whether we're going to take it from existing reserves or,
I would suggest that it comes, does it need to be in the form of the motion where it comes from?
yes, sir, it does, for audit purposes, it does.
I'll amend my motion to take from existing reserve an amount of $500,000 earmarked to this field. Further with that, we'll discuss the difference on utilities and stuff, and budget workshop, I don't want to include that in.
I'll second the motion.
Amendment to the motion, you guys say, thank you.
Number
You have
6,
to vote on it? Yeah. You have to vote on it?
The amendment, yeah.
motion and a second. Any other questions? All in favor signify by the usual sign of voting. Are you changing your vote, Mr. Holmes?
Yeah, I'm gonna
Any
go.
opposed? Was that an opposed?
No, I'm just like wondering, it's like, you said it's earmarked, so what, like, where exactly are these funds coming from? You said it.
Reserve.
You have a reserve fund?
City does.
How's your vote?
Four.
Four, okay. All right. Vote is unanimous. Number 6, consider approving bids for the rebuild, reconstruction of Spring Hill Street.
Mayor and council, we brought this to y'all in February about rebuilding Spring Hill Street. The bid really cost us $1.3 million to go rebuild Spring Hill Street. We went out for bids, there was 3 companies bid on it. Low bid was Leland Bradley Construction at $1.1 million, coming in under our estimate. I'd like to have a motion to approve the, we started on Spring Hill Street.
I've got one question. This was also an extension off the buoy we were gonna fix, wasn't it? Wasn't there a piece of
Yeah,
buoy?
between on Bowie north to 190.
So everything we discussed the last time. I'll make a motion to approve that.
Also sidewalk.
Yeah, I remember.
And when we discussed this in February, we discussed using SRMPA funds for this.
That's my understanding.
Can I ask a question now, or?
Do we have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Question, Jasper?
Yes, so you're saying that this is for Spring Hill Street. This is the only street that this is, and he said it's gonna be how much, Greg?
1.1 million.
And that's just for Spring Hill Street?
Yes, sir. It's asphalt, it's very expensive.
And that's the only street that's that bad?
It's the worst street we have in town. We go through and evaluate the street, and it is the worst street in town right now.
You're saying from Marvin Hancock to Main Street?
Yes, sir.
This, as I understand, this will be the quality of a highway.
It'd be just like Bulldog or Marvin Hancock, one of those.
It's not a chip seal.
It's not a chip seal, it's a rebuild on this, because you can see some of the deeper potholes and everything on that street. Everything like, it has a bad drainage problem, we're gonna fix the drainage problem on that street.
Any other questions? Not all in favor, signify by the usual sign of voting. Any opposed? 4 to 1, motion carries. We have a couple of, an addendum. So the next item will be, consider approval of resolution authorizing submission for the fiscal year 21-22 SDBG application to the Texas Department of Agriculture.
This is a $350,000 grant, and we're going to use it on for sewer.
Sewer line repair on Mile Street, down the place.
Is that something that we have already acquired, or is going out for the,
We have to do all the work on it, and turn it all in, and it'll be scored on it. And also, it's going to be, doing away with 2 lift stations in the same road.
so at this point, there is no expense to the city?
If we get the match, there was some, if we get the grant money, though, we do have to pay for part of it, don't we?
Do you anticipate
The
any,
grant does cover it all.
nothing coming from the city?
I'll make a motion to approve that.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second for the approval of the resolution authorizing submission for the fiscal year 21-22 CDBG application to the Texas Department of Agriculture. Are there any questions? Not all in favor, signify by the usual sign of voting. Any opposed? Mr. Land, do you abstain?
Oh, no.
Motion carries, it's unanimous. There, we did have on the agenda, an executive session. We felt like that might be too extensive, so that has been moved to Thursday at noon.
Mayor, if you don't mind, I'd like to revisit, can I revisit tonight, item 5? Because it wasn't on the last, when we had the last one, was this just one part or 2 parts? Was there another part to this, or is it not on this?
No, it's just,
Okay, so name it up as,
that was just naming of the fire field itself.
Okay.
It's gonna get a name of the whole thing, the training facility, but we're gonna wait on that.
okay. I was just wondering, because I noticed it wasn't on here.
Right. That covers everything except, Nancy, we have a statement, placed on the agenda. It appears that this will probably be my last, meeting to preside in, so I wanted to make a few comments. First of all, I want to thank the council members. I know that they're all present here tonight. My eyes are failing, I don't think that Ms. Johnson is here. For the honor and privilege it is to sit here. When I was elected or requested to fulfill Randy's portion of his term, and then subsequently elected for that. It was not a position that I had sought. I had never thought about being the mayor of Jasper or any other town, but I considered it an honor. The city of Jasper has been very good to me and my family, and I thought if that was the least I could do to help say thank you, I was glad to do that. I did tell those when I accepted and then was elected by those council members, that I would not run when that term was completed. We had a lot of projects going, so I felt it was incumbent upon me to complete those things that were on our plate, so I did run. We had a lot of projects, which I'll talk about in a minute, but at this point, I just want to say thank you very much for allowing me to sit here. I want to thank all the department heads. We have some great employees throughout the city. Departments here at City Hall. I can't think of it how it could be any better. The head of our streets and parks, Mr. Wade Peak. The electrical department, Mr. Lee Wellman. Sanitation, Mr. Lee Brumley. And the public works, Mr. Greg Kelly. And he has Bob Gary with the sewer and Mr. Eric Rogers over the water. These individuals have done a tremendous job. I have seen them in the morning time, those in the public works department that have been out all night because of the sewer broke. They just can't say enough good words about them. For the personnel here at City Hall, I'll start with the lady who I think really runs the office, and that's Christine. And those of you who know Christine, I'm trying to get her to get over her shyness. It's a little hard to get her talking sometimes, but she's trying to get there. She's the lady that sits at the front table, that is the first person that someone that has never been in City Hall is exposed to, and she always greets with a smile on her face. The ladies in the various departments, they pick at Christine just like I do, but they do a tremendous job for us all. I guess I should mention Denise. She seems to do one or two things around this place. Whether you know it or not, we have a lady, a city manager, who wears two hats, or two bonnets, whatever we want to call it. She is our city manager, and she is also head of the finance department, although Robbie is right there side by side. We get so much bang for the bucks with her handling both departments. It saves the city of Jasper a lot of money every year, and even if we had two people in those positions, we could not do a better job. She just, you load her up with work, and she says, "Is that all you need me to do?" So Denise, thank you very much. In fact, my wife said there was something about a month ago where it was a nationwide thing. Recognition, she said, "You need to send her Denise." I didn't want to lose her from the city of Jasper, so I did not mention that. As I mentioned a minute ago, we had several projects that were still in the works at the end of the year and a half that I said initially. Or actually, this was a year and a half. The main one was Provalis. At the present time, we have a fully paid facility that employs at the end of March 112 employees, I believe it is. We have a new class that started today, I believe. It has 20 additional. So the agreement with Provalis was that we would have 100 employees within 3 years. Ladies and gentlemen, we have exceeded that in about a year. Annual payroll of those employees, as it exists right now, is a little over $3.7 million. That has an economic impact and effect on Jasper of $11.7 million. The agreement with Provalis is that if they have those employees for 5 years, then the building's theirs. We spent about $3.7 million on that facility, tearing down what was there and building what's there. So for $3.7 million, we've got an economic impact per year of $11.7 million, which if you multiply that by 5, that's about $58 million economic impact. Those were SRMPA funds that we used. It didn't cost the city of Jasper, residents, taxpayers, one penny. So for 3.7, we have an impact at only 112 employees. And they just, Provalis wouldn't put it in writing. They said, we'll have 200 employees. We have, Provalis has 2 other facilities in the United States. One is in South Carolina, one is in Brewton, Alabama. One in Brewton was there about a year and a half before we even started on ours. We got our building built before Brewton ever finished, and we have more employees than Brewton and the South Carolina facility is. They are tickled to death with us. We had the Main Street project, that had been going a long time, and that is now complete. Of course, the park was here, and we've got the expansion. I take no credit for any of those 3 major items. Though I will say I had something to do with the Provalis getting on it. There's been a lot of discussion about the use of the SRMPA funds, and I want to address that. Some of the reports have been that we've received these funds, but the personnel, the citizens of Jasper have not received any benefits. I just described to you spending 3.7 and getting about $58 million if we only have 112 employees. I consider that a benefit. We have had 98 streets chip sealed since 2017. I got the information broken down by districts. Mr. Lanier's District 1. There have been a total of 30 streets chip sealed since 2017 in District 1. District 2, there have been a total of 14. District 3, a total of 29. District 4, a total of 24. Totals, if I counted right, 97 streets chip sealed at no cost to the city of Jasper. if the SRMP funds, EA funds had not been available, the only way to get those streets paid would be to increase the taxes of the taxpayers. We have not had to do that because those funds are available. We have received total benefits, and they calculated it since I've been in office. And again, it has nothing to do with the fact that I've been sitting here. Whoever was sitting here, these funds would have been used anyway. They just used my term as the parameters. A little over $16.5 million have been used from Provala's funds, from SRMPA funds to benefit the residents of the city of Jasper. That consists of streets, Provala's building. We need a new garbage truck, whatever it was. We've used $16.5 million from the SRMPA funds. And that has cost the city of Jasper nothing. Our electrical rates are some of the lowest in southeast Texas. I will point out to you something I'm privy to, Denise is privy to, because we sit on the board of SRMPA. Years ago, when SRMPA, ladies and gentlemen, stands for Sam Rayburn Municipal Power Agency, when that began, there were bonds totaling, I think it was $180 million that was had to be acquired and hence paid for. That has been paid for not by the city of Jasper, not by the city of Livingston, nor Liberty, but by SRMPA funds before anything comes to us. On October the 1st of this year, the last of those bonds are gonna be paid for. $180 million. So SRMPA will have, that indebtedness is gone. What that means to the city of Jasper, Liberty and Livingston along, likewise, is that they are in a position to lower electrical rates. Not because of who's sitting in this chair, or who's sitting at the council seats, although you will be the ones voting on it. But it's not any action of us, it's just that it's happened. So whoever's sitting here in my seat, our council members shouldn't be sticking their chest out and saying, look what I've done for the city of Jasper. It will be in place, it's just a matter of how you elect to use that opportunity. I'm trying to. I moved here with my wife, and I think she was 6 weeks old. "48 years ago. I moved here, I moved away from Jasper when I was 13 years old. My family lived here, and they said, we're moving to Jasper. I'm moving to Beaumont. And when you're 13 years old, living with your parents, you say, yes ma'am, yes sir, and you move. So that's what we did, and I went to high school in Beaumont, and then I went to college, and I went to law school. And I finished my law school admission exam at about 5 o'clock. I don't remember if it was Thursday, Friday, what material. And so I went and got the little bit of furnishings that you have when you're that age, and loaded it up in a U-Haul, and I came to Jasper, Texas. Drink some Jasper water. I've been here with my wife for 48 years. This is home. I said earlier that I felt like accepting the opportunity to sit here was the least I could do because Jasper did good. I served on the school board, one of those good paying positions, just like this position is, for 19 years. So I think I've contributed some there. And I said as state district judge, which certainly was a paying position, but there was too much downtime, so I resigned and came back to practice. It's been a pleasure to sit here, and it was a pleasure to sit on the school board for many years. And there was a fellow board member that I sat next to for a long time, that he and I had different philosophies, and we're all a product of our environment and growing up. But we had open discussions. When there was stuff that was presented, we may not voted the same, but we had an open discussion. Here's where I'm coming from. Here's where I'm coming from. We respected each other's position. That's the way it was. It's been, the term never and ever is a term that is a long time. So I won't say, because I tend to slip a little bit with my memory. So I won't say never and ever, use those terms, but I'll say I cannot recall ever a time when I sat on the school board and have sat in this chair where there was not a discussion where someone had difference of opinion. At least there was a dialogue up until about the last 6 weeks. I'm disappointed, and I know that we have potential candidates for my position and council members here tonight. The only thing I will conclude by saying, one vote is not going to pass anything. 2 votes will pass, get anything passed. So I will just encourage anyone sitting in this position or the council member, presently sitting here or potentially sitting, when you have something that you want to present, have a little discussion. Let people know where you're coming from and what your thought process are. Not just, here it is, period, paragraph. So you can accept that suggestion or not. With that, I will say thank you very much, and we'll stand adjourned.